is up, everybody, and welcome back to another Madden 17 online game. Last year's number 2 seed in the AFC Conference, the Kansas City Chiefs, are the team we're covering today for the 32-team preview series for the upcoming NFL season. And last year, the Chiefs did not lose many games, had a really good record, but the games that they did lose, they lost because they weren't able to score enough points. And football is a really simple game in that aspect where if you don't score more points as an offense than the amount of points that your defense gives up, you are going to lose football games. And last year, the Chiefs defense, they wouldn't give up a lot of points. They would give up like 17 points or 19 points. But the Chiefs offense could not get in the 20s against certain teams. And as a result, they would lose those games. And when it came to playoff football, besides the Steelers game, they got absolutely blown out in that one Steelers game on Sunday Night Football when they were down by like 24 in the blink of an eye. But besides that, the Chiefs played a lot of close games last year, and they won a lot of those games. But there were certain games where they just couldn't get enough points, and the team played smart enough, and they lost. And when it came to the playoffs, they got a first-round bye, but after that, they went against the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it was a gritty, grinding game that came down to defense, and also came down to whose offense could come through in the clutch, and it wasn't the Kansas City Chiefs offense. Definitely was not that. They weren't able to get touchdowns on the board, and they got eliminated. But for the Chiefs, last season kind of felt like their ceiling. When it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs under the Alex Smith, Andy Reid era the last couple of years, there's been a ceiling that this team can achieve, and that was kind of it last year. No one takes them seriously as Super Bowl contenders because, like I said, there's this certain ceiling that you're going to get from having Alex Smith as your quarterback. He's not a top 5 quarterback in the league. He's a very smart quarterback, and the Chiefs are a very smart football team. Last year, they led the league in turnover differential. Their defense was a ball-hawking unit. 18 interceptions, I believe, was tied for the lead in the NFL. But on the offensive side, they just do not have... They don't have an elite quarterback. They don't have an elite offensive line. They don't have elite wide receivers. They do have an elite tight end in Travis Kelce, but that is about it. And that's not good enough to take you all the way to the Super Bowl. And the Chiefs are bringing back that kind of squad this year. So, are the Chiefs going to win the Super Bowl? I'm just going to predict it and say no right now. Are the Chiefs going to be a good team next season? Probably. Will they make the playoffs? I don't know. It's a really average offense when you look at it on paper. An average running game. Average running backs, no more Jamal Charles, but Spencer Ware's been pretty good. Charkandrick West is kind of a spelling running back as well. The offensive line, you don't have any elite guys over there. They picked up Mitchell Schwartz, who's probably going to be a really big pickup. Mitch Morse on the offensive line, Jake Fisher. These are all just average guys. They got that one dude, Dunvernay Tardif. They drafted him late in a couple years ago in the draft, and he actually is one of their starters now. It's a young team for the most part, so that's why the Chiefs are still good, even after all these years of, being one of the better teams in the NFL, because they've been drafting pretty well, especially later on in the draft. They find, these young guys that get a lot of playing time and end up being pretty good, like that Tyreek Hill guy last year. Kind of dropped in the draft due to the, off the field issues, but Tyreek Hill was a big name last year. Ramik Wilson, linebacker, big name for them. And the guy I mentioned, I'm not going to try to say his name again, but he was a 6th-round pick 3 drafts ago, and he was pretty good. And even at the top of the draft, they don't do too bad either. Last year, they didn't have a 1st-round pick, but they ended up drafting Chris Jones, and Chris Jones was... I think he's going to be a really good player. He's on the PUP list to start the year, and that's a little bit concerning. But from what I've read, I don't think he's really going to miss too many games, if any games. So that shouldn't be too big of a concern. But 2015 draft, the 1st-round pick was Marcus Peters, and that worked out pretty well. The draft before that, the 1st-round pick was Dee Ford, and for a while that was looking like a bust of a pick. But now Dee Ford is looking like he's going to be a solid piece of the rotation as far as pass rushers, and hopefully take over once Holly and or Houston eventually end up leaving the team for one way or another. But like I said, the Chiefs, they have this really average offense, and there's not much to talk about because you kind of know what you're getting. The one major concern about that offense is the wide receiver spot. They let go of Macklin, so they don't got Macklin anymore, and they also let go of Jamal Charles, like I said, but that shouldn't be too big of a loss for, the amount of injuries Jamal Charles has suffered lately. He hasn't really been on the field. Macklin was also pretty banged up. He had that big injury 2 years ago in the playoffs, and it kind of affected him, in that game against the Patriots, and last year it seemed like he was having some lasting effects in it, and he's gone now, so it's not big losses on the offense, but there's not really anybody to replace those guys. They're hoping Chris Conley steps up, and Chris Conley was a 3rd-round pick in the 2015 draft, and he got some playing time last year, but I mean, the big names on the offense right now are Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce. And Travis Kelce, that's a great name to have as your #1 tight end. Besides the fact that he's a little bit of a hothead, and that's something that he needs to control himself. He's got, his emotion drives him a little bit too much. And then Tyreek Hill, the speedster, we got to see what else he has in his game. We saw a lot of, the Chiefs using him as a gimmick player last year, but we got to see if he's a legitimate football player, because gimmicks in the NFL get sniffed out, all right? These teams, these defenses, they're way too smart. They will sniff out gimmicks. RG3 didn't last forever, and it wasn't just because of his knee injury. And the read option, all that with Kaepernick and all those guys, they had to find a new niche, and they never found it, and they kind of got ridden out the NFL, all those read option kind of guys. And Tyreek Hill could be next if he doesn't find a way to make impacts. But I mean, the one thing that Tyreek Hill has is speed, and that's the one thing you can't take away from him. Not just speed, but ability to move with the football in your hands. Like, Devin Hester wasn't the fastest guy ever, but when he had the football in his hands, he looked like Superman, all right? The way he could, read coverages, punt return, kick return, whatever it may be. And Tyreek Hill is that kind of guy. You give him a wide receiver screen or something like that, and he's going to make moves. And the Chiefs had, by the way, my game was lagging like crazy. A lot of these Xbox games I played, like, it lagged like crazy. So you guys see a couple, like, laggy possessions in some of these Xbox games I played. It's not you, it's me. My game was just lagging like crazy. I don't know why. I would miss, like, a play or two because it was lagging so badly. And usually in most of those plays, nothing bad would happen. I don't know. The people I was playing against never really took advantage of it. But, yeah, so, like I said, actually, I kind of forget what I was saying, to be honest. Oh, yeah, Tyreek Hill. So, they got, the special teams was the part I was trying to transition to. With Tyreek Hill, they got an elite special teams unit. Cairo Santos was one of the best kickers last year as far as just purely making field goals. Their punt return defense was pretty good. And then punt return and kick return, Tyreek Hill and even DeAnthony Thomas back there. Those are two guys that can take it to the crib on any given play. And then the defense, there's question marks. You got to see what's going on the cornerback spot opposing Marcus Peters, who is one of the best ball-hawking cornerbacks in the league. Last year, they had Terrence Mitchell come in late in the season. He played pretty well, so we'll see if he could do something. We'll see if Phillip Gaines can provide anything. Steven Nelson. Like, Phillip Gaines hasn't looked too great. He was getting torched. Steven Nelson was one of those guys that was getting torched. And, it's someone that's got to step up. This is like the third team that we got over, maybe even the fourth team where they have an elite cornerback, but they just need help. And that's what makes the Falcons, a really good defense. It's not because, Desmond Trufant is a good cornerback and one of the better cornerbacks in the league, but they just have a lot of depth, and that's something that you really need in your secondary. At least as far as safeties, they have one of the best safety tandems in the NFL in Ron Parker and Eric Berry. Eric Berry himself single-handedly won a couple games for the Kansas City Chiefs. You remember that Carolina game when he got the amazing pick 6 bouncing off defenders. The Atlanta game, the pick 2, when the Atlanta Falcons were just trying to get themselves a couple of extra points on the board, and Eric Berry just won the game on a pick 2. So you got that back there, and Ron Parker's been good for the last couple of years. They got Daniel Sorensen, I believe his name is. They run a lot of dime, and they put Sorensen on the field, get that 3-safety look. And on top of that, Derek Johnson, Ramik Wilson, good names on this team. Tom Bahali is still, giving them good production, despite the fact that apparently he didn't play in the playoffs much. He was really pissed off about that. I saw that. I didn't really notice that when I was watching it, but definitely something to note that Tom Bahali is not happy. Justin Houston was hurt a lot of last year, and as a result, I think he started the whole first half of the season on the PUP list, but their pass rush was pretty bad last year. But when Justin Houston came back, Justin Houston still has the ability to wreck game plans just by, getting straight after your quarterback, blowing up running plays, that kind of guy. But these guys are getting up there in age, Holly and Houston. So we got to see how much they still have left on the table, and we'll see if D4 can take some sort of a next step this season. So with this Chiefs team, I feel like last year, like I said, that was really the peak Kansas City Chiefs of this era. That is the most you're going to get out of the Chiefs. Leading the turnover differential in the NFL. Getting a little bit of a break with the Derek Carr injury. Having Alex Smith not turn the ball over too much, having their defense getting so many game-changing turnovers, winning a lot of close games, but ultimately there's a ceiling for the Chiefs, and that's what it was. And I think this year they kind of I doubt they could do what they did last year again, go 12-4 or whatever, or 11-5. I think it was 12-4 they went to get that 2 seed, but I don't think they could do that again. I think this is still a good team, and it's somewhere between 8-8 and 10-6, but I think the Chiefs have a legitimate chance of missing the playoffs next year. But at the same time, when you look at the rest of the AFC, who's going to step up and challenge them for one of those spots? You look at the North Division. The North usually has a team or two coming out the wildcard spot. Last year it was the Dolphins. In the South, you're not too sure if anybody's going to come there. When you look at it that way, there's not too much competition for the fact that if the Chiefs don't win this division, they could slide in for a wildcard spot. So that's why I think the Chiefs will definitely be in wildcard contention. I'm not sure they'll get it, but, just got to see what kind of breaks fall their way. Last year, division play really propelled the Chiefs, and I doubt they do as well in the division as they did last year, right? Last year, they dominated the AFC West, their opponents, and it's going to be hard to do that again, and that's why I feel like there's a couple of reasons why, and on top of that, they have a first-place schedule this year. There's a couple of reasons why the Chiefs could take a couple of steps back towards that 8-8 and 10-6 record, but they're still one of the smarter football teams out there. They're not going to make dumb mistakes. They're not going to beat themselves, so we'll see how it plays out for them. I think they're going to be in that wildcard contention. Let me know what you guys think, Chiefs fans, Chiefs Kingdom. Let me know how you're feeling about this squad this season. They lost a couple of pieces, but I don't think they're big pieces. Like Jay Howard, Dontari Poe, Jerry Maclin. They weren't big pieces. I think it was smart to let them go, but we'll see how it goes. We'll see what goes with this team. Leave a like on the video if you guys enjoyed it. Subscribe for more, and I'll catch you guys next time.